Hi, I'm Edward, and I'm proud to introduce the Marching Revolution podcast. Just a heads up, this show is powered by my AI workforce, so you won't be hearing my voice just yet. Instead, you'll be hearing two AI hosts bring these stories to life. Thanks for being here. Enjoy the show, and welcome to the revolution. This is the Marching Revolution podcast.
Boots on the ground with a thunderous beat, hearts in sync, our purpose complete. Map of the future drawn by our stride, through the struggle we walk unified. Marching forward where no chains can hold, hands in the dirt we carve
Welcome
out
to the
gold.
Marching Revolution, our deep dive into all things marching band. Today, we're going to be talking about an organization that's pretty much a household name, at least here in the Mid-Atlantic, if you're at all into marching band. We're talking about the Tournament of Bands, or as most folks know it, TOB.
TOB.
And
Big one.
we've got this really interesting article. It calls it, get this, the Mid-Atlantic Music Education Jewel.
Ooh.
So we're going to be looking at that, and we're going to be pulling from a few other sources, too, to try to get to the bottom of what makes this organization so special and impactful.
That's right, because we really want to find out what makes it a crown jewel. Like, what exactly is it about TOB that sets it apart from all the other competitive marching band circuits out there?
Yeah, good point. And it's not just a fall thing either, right?
Uh-huh.
There's also the Tournament Indoor Association, or TIA, and that keeps things going through the winter. And TIA is doing some pretty cool stuff. They've got all the usual suspects like, indoor percussion, color guard, indoor winds, but they're also including some things that you don't always see in other indoor circuits.
That's right. And that's something that makes TIA really unique. You'll see dance teams out there competing, majorette squads, and even jazz bands.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it really shows how inclusive they are.
For sure. Now, to give you a better sense of what TOB is all about, we're going to spotlight some of the bands that have really made their mark in TOB history.
Love that.
And we've got some fun facts, too, that'll hopefully give you a whole new appreciation for this organization.
Okay, I like it.
So, first things first, where did TOB even come from?
Well, it all goes back to 1972.
Okay.
That's when the National Judges Association, the NJA, established TOB. So that makes it one of the oldest competitive circuits in the entire U.S.
Wow.
It's actually pretty amazing. They celebrated their 50th anniversary back in 2022, which is just incredible when you think about it.
50 years. That's
Yeah.
quite a legacy. So what was the idea behind starting TOB? What's their main philosophy or their driving force, so to speak?
At its core, TOB is all about providing a well-structured, inclusive, and really importantly, an accessible competitive environment.
Okay.
The focus has always been on making sure that there's fair competition and high-quality education for all high school marching bands. And when I say all, I mean all shapes and sizes and all skill levels.
I see. So it's not just about being the biggest or the loudest band out there.
Exactly. Some circuits mainly group bands together based on how big their high school is, but TOB does things a little differently.
So a small school with a really great program wouldn't automatically be thrown into the same category as a massive band just because of enrollment numbers.
That's right. TOB has this really smart classification system.
Okay.
Instead of only looking at how many students are in a school, they actually categorize the bands based on how many members are actually performing and, more importantly, on their skill level.
So it's about what you can actually do, not just how big your school is.
Yeah, exactly. It levels the playing field and lets those smaller but really talented bands shine.
That makes a lot of sense. It sounds like a much more encouraging system for those smaller programs.
Right.
You mentioned education being a big part of TOB's mission. How do they make sure that learning is woven into the whole competition experience?
Well, for TOB, education isn't just some buzzword they throw around. It's really built into the way they do things.
I see.
The judges are super well trained, and they give really detailed feedback after every single performance.
Wow.
And the best part, it's all constructive. Like, they don't just point out what was wrong. They offer suggestions on how to improve. They cover everything. Musical performance, show design, how precise the movements are. A lot of band directors actually say that this feedback is like gold. It's incredibly valuable for helping their students grow.
That's so important, right? It's not just about winning or losing. It's about actually getting better.
Exactly. It's a learning process.
Okay, let's talk about the big one, the event everyone's aiming for, the Atlantic Coast Championships, or ACC, Where does this fit into the TOB season?
ACC, oh, that's the peak, the ultimate goal.
The big finale.
Yeah, the climax of the whole TOB season. It brings together the absolute best bands from 9 states. Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Maryland, Delaware, West Virginia. You've even got New York and Virginia in the mix.
It's a huge area.
It is. And get this, some bands even come from outside the region to compete. That's how big of a deal ACC is.
Wow, that speaks volumes about its reputation. And the venues where they hold ACC, they've definitely gotten more impressive over the years, haven't they?
Oh, absolutely. It's actually pretty interesting how that's evolved. You know, back in the day, they used to hold ACC on high school football fields.
Wow.
Yeah. But as TOB got bigger and the bands got better, they needed bigger and better places to hold this thing.
Makes sense.
And so they moved on to some pretty iconic venues. We're talking Hershey Park Stadium, Lackawanna County Stadium, the University of Delaware, even Boardwalk Hall in Atlantic City.
Boardwalk Hall. That's a pretty legendary venue.
It is. And moving to these bigger, more prestigious places really shows how much ACC has grown.
It makes you wonder how those different venues, especially somewhere like Boardwalk Hall, affect the performances.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
That must be a totally different experience.
it is. For example, the acoustics in a place like Boardwalk Hall
Right.
were completely different from an open-air stadium. Bands have to adjust their instruments, even their playing style, to make it work in that kind of space.
Interesting. Now, this is totally random, but I heard a rumor that ACC used to have a parade. Is that true?
Oh, yeah. That's a great bit of TOB trivia.
Okay, good.
It's true. Back in the early days of ACC, all the bands that made it to the finals would march together in this big parade.
That's so cool.
It was a really cool tradition. It really brought everyone together and created a sense of community. Unfortunately, they don't do it anymore, but it's a cool reminder of how strong the bonds are in TOB.
Yeah, it sounds like a totally different vibe. Maybe more laid back,
Right.
even though it's a competition.
Absolutely. So are you ready to talk about some bands that have consistently been at the top of their game at ACC?
Yeah. Let's talk powerhouses. Who are the bands that consistently dominate the competition?
Well, when it comes to ACC champions, there are a few names that pop up again and again. Mechanicsburg from Pennsylvania, they're a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah.
They've got an amazing record. And then you've got Williamsport, also from Pennsylvania, and Pocono Mountain,
All Pennsylvania.
all Pennsylvania. They've just got these long-standing traditions of excellence.
Wow. Speaking of excellence, what's the highest score anyone's ever gotten at ACC?
You ready for this? The record to beat is a whopping 98.8 AC.
What?
Yeah. That was achieved by, no surprise here, Mechanicsburg High School back in 2005 in Group 3.
98.80 out of 100.
That's right. They pretty much set the bar.
Wow.
But they're not the only ones reaching these super high scores. Bands like Pocono Mountain, Southern Regional, and West Deptford, they've all broken the 98-point mark at ACC.
That is incredible. Talk about high stakes.
Yeah.
Have there been any championships that were decided by like a super tiny margin?
Oh, absolutely. Some ACC championships have come down to the wire, like we're talking incredibly close calls.
No way.
Yeah. For example, back in 2019, the top 2 bands were separated by less than a tenth of a point.
Wow.
And get this, the actual difference was a mere .005 points.
Are you serious? 0.005. That's insane. You usually see margins that small in like Olympic sports, not marching band.
I know, right? It just shows you how fierce the competition is at that level.
So who are some of these incredible bands that made it to the top at ACC? We talked about some powerhouses, but I know there are a lot of other talented groups out there.
Oh, yeah. Tons.
Let's hear about some of the recent champions and then maybe some bands that have been consistently good for a long time.
All right, so looking at the 2024 ACCs, Allegheny High School from Maryland took home the gold in Group 1 with a score of 95.70. In Group 2, we had Raritan High School from New Jersey snagging the championship with an awesome 97.1 near. Southern Regional High School, also from Jersey, they grabbed the Group 3 crown with a score of 97.70. And last but definitely not least, Mifflin County High School from Pennsylvania. They were the Group 4 champs with a score of 90.70.
It's fantastic to see all these talented bands getting recognized. What about those programs that have been consistently great year after year?
Well, there's Oak Crest High School from New Jersey. They're known as the ambassadors, and they've got a whole bunch of ACC championships under their belt.
Yeah, the ambassadors. Very cool.
Liberty High School from Maryland, they did something really impressive. They won back-to-back ACC titles in 2018 and 2019.
Back to back. That's amazing.
And then you've got Brick Memorial High School from New Jersey. They're another multi-time champion, including their win in Group 2 back in 2008 with a score of 97.4. And of course, we can't forget about Mechanicsburg with their many wins and that record-breaking score.
Right, of course. Oh, and Washington Township High School in Jersey had that crazy streak of 16 straight Chapter 1 championships. Talk about consistency.
It's unbelievable, right?
And they were in the top 10 at ACC 16 times, too.
Yeah, it's amazing. And then you have Mainland Regional High School. They had a perfect undefeated season in 2019 and won their very first ACC championship with a score of 95.54. And we can't leave out Metuchen High School. They showed everyone how it's done by winning the Group 3A ACC championship 2 years in a row, 2015 and 2016.
That's seriously impressive. Okay, so let's shift gears and talk about what happens when the weather turns cold and the marching season is over. Let's talk about TIA, the Tournament Indoor Association.
Okay, let's do it.
When did TIA start up?
TIA got its start in 1981. It was basically a natural progression from TOB. They wanted to keep the momentum going during those winter months and give students a chance to keep performing.
So it was like an extension of the TOB experience.
Exactly. They've got winter guard, indoor percussion, and indoor winds. It's a way for the students to keep honing their skills and keep that passion for performing arts alive.
That's great. And it sounds like TIA has the same basic philosophy as TOB when it comes to competition.
Yeah, they do. TIA is all about education and making sure everyone has a chance to compete. And just like TOB, they've got a class-based system, which makes sure that everyone is competing against groups that are at a similar level.
So it's fair and everyone has a shot.
Exactly.
Now, just like TOB has its big championship, the ACC, TIA has its own culminating event, right?
You bet. It's called the Atlantic Coast Indoor Championships, or ACE for short.
ACE, got it.
That's what all the TIA groups work towards throughout the whole indoor season.
And I know we touched on this earlier, but I think it's worth mentioning again. TIA has some really unique performance categories that you don't usually see in other indoor circuits. Can you remind us what those are?
Yeah, absolutely. So beyond the usual indoor color guard, percussion, and winds, TIA also has competitions for dance teams, majorette squads, and even jazz bands.
Jazz band, that's so cool.
It's really cool. It really sets them apart and opens up the whole competition to a much wider range of students.
I love that they're embracing all these different forms of performance.
Me too.
It shows real commitment to supporting the arts.
Yeah.
Okay, let's circle back to TOB and talk about some of the things that make it so unique and interesting. We've already heard about that parade they used to have at ACC, but what other fun facts or interesting features stand out about TOB?
Well, this might sound like a small thing, but it's actually pretty significant. TOB is one of the very few circuits that scores out of 100.
Really?
Yeah. A lot of other circuits only go up to 99, so when you see those super high scores at ACC, you know it's a really big deal.
Wow, I never knew that.
Yeah.
That totally changes my perspective on those scores.
Right. Okay, ready for another fun fact?
Always. Hit me.
Most of TOB is run by volunteers from the NJA, the National Judges Association.
That's incredible.
It's true. And a lot of those volunteers are actually former TOB performers.
So they're giving back to the activity they love.
Exactly. And there are even some band directors who have been involved with TOB for decades, going all the way back to when they were students themselves.
Wow, that shows some serious dedication.
It does. And speaking of dedication, we can't forget about Weekend in Wildwood.
Oh yeah, Weekend in Wildwood. I've heard about that. What's the deal with that?
Okay, so Weekend in Wildwood is this whole weekend of indoor competitions held at the Wildwoods Convention Center in New Jersey.
Okay.
And what makes it extra special is the location. The convention center is literally right on the beach, right by the famous Wildwood Boardwalk.
Oh wow, talk about a fun location for a competition.
I know, right? It's like this giant end-of-season party for a lot of the groups. And because the TIA season sometimes goes a bit later than other indoor circuits, some groups even use it as their last performance even after WGI finals.
So you've got the excitement of competition right next to the beach and the boardwalk. Sounds like a blast.
It is. It's a pretty unique experience.
I'll say. Now, TOB is mainly a mid-Atlantic thing, but have any of the TOB bands gone on to compete at a national level?
Oh, yeah, for sure. While TOB is mainly focused on the Mid-Atlantic region, some of their best bands have gone on to compete nationally in Bands of America, or BOA.
DOA, yeah.
Bands like Mechanicsburg, Springford, and Washington Township, they've all done really well at BOA.
That's great to hear.
It really shows you the level of talent that's coming out of TOB.
Totally. And what about individual students? Are there opportunities for them to perform beyond their high school band?
TOB has this awesome program called the Tournament of Bands All-Star Marching Band. It's a select group of students who get to perform in some really big national parades.
Like which ones?
Well, they've marched in the Pearl Harbor Memorial Parade in Hawaii.
Wow.
And the National Independence Day Parade in Washington, D.C.
That's incredible. What a great way to represent TOB and get some amazing experience.
Right. Talk about a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
Totally. Okay, last but not least, let's talk about the judges, the ones who give all the feedback.
The all-seeing eyes.
Exactly. How does TOB make sure that the judging is fair and consistent and actually helpful for the students?
This is where TOB really shines. Unlike some other circuits that might just hire freelance judges, TOB has the NJA, the National Judges Association, and they have their own in-house training program for all their judges.
So they're not just thrown in there without any guidance.
Nope. These judges are mentored and trained by really experienced people like caption heads and other mentor judges. This makes sure that the judging is fair and consistent.
Okay.
And remember all that great feedback we talked about earlier?
Yeah, the constructive stuff.
This training is a big part of that too. And the NJA has a really good reputation because of this. A lot of their trained judges go on to judge in other circuits, even national level events.
That's awesome. So it sounds like both TOB and TIA have had a massive impact on the marching arts, not just in the Mid-Atlantic, but maybe even beyond.
I think it's safe to say they've left their mark. For over 50 years, TOB has been this powerhouse of music education in the Mid-Atlantic. They've created a space for fair competition, they've made music education a top priority, and they've created so many incredible memories for generations of students. And then TIA came along and extended all that goodness into the winter months, giving even more opportunities for students to grow as performers.
So well said. This deep dive has really opened my eyes to why the Tournament of Bands is considered such a gem in the world of music education. It's got history, it's got heart, it's got dedicated people, and it's got some seriously talented performers. This has been the Marching Revolution.
And it really makes you think, doesn't it? If something like TOB, which a lot of people might not even know about, can have such a huge impact, what other hidden gems are out there? What other activities are quietly shaping lives and fostering passion? It's definitely something to think about.
It is. It just goes to show that there's always more to discover, more to learn about, more to be inspired by.
Couldn't agree more.
That's it for this deep dive. Thanks for joining us on the Marching Revolution. We'll catch you next time.
Thank you for
Boots on
listening
the
to the
ground
Marching
with a
Revolution
thunderous
podcast.
beat. Hearts in sync, our
Don't
purpose
forget to
complete.
like and subscribe.
Map of the future drawn by our stride. Through the struggle we walk unified. Marching forward where no chains can hold. Hands in the dirt, we carve out gold. From the ashes we rise, we sing. For the power of the people is everything. Flags that wave like the dawn's first light, guiding us through the endless night. Every step shakes the earth awake. Our voices roar for justice's sake. Marching forward where no chains can hold. Hands in the dirt, we carve out gold. From the ashes we rise, we sing. For the power of the people is everything. The rhythm of hope, it pounds in our chest. We won't stop until we've done our best. The world is ours to turn.